Have you ever had the feeling that the life you're living doesn't actually belong to you? As if you're walking a path someone else paved, parents, teachers, friends, society, while some quiet voice deep inside keeps whispering, "This isn't it?" You get up each day, wear the same emotional armor, fulfill your duties, smile when expected. But when the noise fades, a lingering question returns. Who am I really? Carl Jung believed this disconnect isn't random. It's not a passing phase. It's a sign, an alarm from the soul. Most people, he warned, spend their entire lives without meeting their true selves. They act out roles, wear labels, and chase validations never designed for them. The tragedy? They mistake that shell for a self. They die never having touched their own core. So now ask yourself, is this your life or someone else's? The version of you that you believe in, your likes, your ambitions, even your opinions, how much of that was built by you and how much was inherited or expected? Since childhood, we're shaped to conform, to belong, to dim or hide parts of ourselves in exchange for approval. To survive, we create a mask, what Jung called the persona, a carefully crafted version of ourselves we present to the world. But the more we rely on this mask, the more we forget what lies beneath. Eventually, the mask becomes our face, and behind it, the real you withers, forgotten, unheard. Jung didn't just warn us of this. He laid out the price we pay: constant anxiety, dissatisfaction, and an eerie sense that something vital is always missing. Even when we succeed, it doesn't feel like enough. Because what we really crave can't be found in accolades or relationships. It's buried inside, hidden beneath layers of conditioning. The real question is, are you willing to go inward? Are you willing to confront what's been buried, denied, or distorted within you? That's where the path to freedom begins. But don't be fooled. It's not an easy road. To uncover the true self means facing fears, breaking illusions, and recovering the parts of you that were left behind. This video explores the process Jung called individuation, the quest to become whole, to reclaim your essence, and finally, to live from that truth. As children, we were subtly trained to behave, to be polite, to keep our voice down, to hide anger, to make others comfortable. Or perhaps you were taught to always be strong, never cry, and always have the answers. Slowly, without noticing, you began molding yourself into someone that wasn't entirely you. That mold is what Jung referred to as the persona, the version of yourself curated for social acceptance. Everyone wears one. If you act one way at work, another at home, and yet another on social media, you've met your persona. Is it necessary? Yes, it helps us navigate society. But when you believe the persona is all you are, the danger begins. You forget yourself. Think about it. How many times have you laughed when you wanted to cry? Bit your tongue when your truth was burning inside you? How many moments have you sacrificed your authenticity just to be accepted? Eventually, the mask becomes a prison. You become an actor in a role you never consciously auditioned for. The persona might win you approval, but it will never bring you peace. It might earn applause, but never satisfaction. And over time, the more you cling to it, the further you drift from your essence. But if the mask isn't the real you, then who is? To answer that, you have to turn to the other side of your being, to what you've suppressed, rejected, and buried. Jung called this part the shadow, and that's where your true reclamation begins. But don't expect comfort. What's hidden in the shadow is often difficult to face. If the persona is your social disguise, the shadow is the closet you've stuffed all the things you were told not to be. But what we suppress doesn't disappear. It waits. It gathers force in the background, shaping your fears, your reactions, your decisions, all without your conscious awareness. Jung described the shadow as the storehouse of everything you've denied. Anger you weren't allowed to express, desires you were taught to fear, vulnerabilities you tried to hide. And many of these traits aren't bad, they're just misunderstood. Maybe you were once curious but were told to stop asking so many questions, so you learned to stay quiet. Or maybe your sensitivity was mistaken for weakness, so you toughened up. But those traits didn't die, they just went underground. They show up when you least expect it, in your outbursts, in your envy, in your unexplained reactions. That's your shadow speaking. If you don't face it, it controls you. It poisons relationships, limits your growth, and keeps you stuck. But here's the paradox. The shadow is also where your power lies, your creativity, your intuition, your depth. You can't be whole if you keep this part in the dark. So how do you integrate it without letting it devour you? That's where Jung's concept of the self comes in. If the persona is your mask and the shadow is what's hidden, the self is your center, your core being, your totality. It is who you are when every part of you is acknowledged, accepted, and aligned. Jung believed the purpose of life was not to become good or successful, but to become whole, to become yourself. But this doesn't happen by accident. The self doesn't appear just because you want it to. It demands truth. It demands a journey, an inner confrontation with all you've ignored, feared, or misunderstood. You must reconcile your inner longings with outer expectations. And the biggest obstacle? Fear. Fear of letting go of the identity you've constructed. Fear of realizing your life was shaped more by others than by you. Fear of who you might become if you stop pretending. This fear keeps people clinging to their masks. It keeps their shadows unchecked, and it keeps them locked in roles that slowly starve the soul. But when you begin to question those roles, when you stop running from your shadow, something remarkable happens. You begin to feel free. You stop needing approval. You start acting from clarity, not conditioning, and life starts making sense. You begin to see why you keep repeating certain patterns, why certain people trigger you, why some relationships never worked. You realize there was always a part of you trying to guide you, if only you had listened. But there's a key element we haven't touched yet, one that's often forgotten: the unconscious and the archetypes it holds. Without understanding these, you'll never fully know who you are. Most of what shapes us lies beneath awareness. The unconscious isn't just a dumping ground for trauma. It's an entire realm of symbols, myths, and blueprints. Jung discovered that we aren't blank slates. We come into life with inherited psychic structures, what he called archetypes. They influence how we think, feel, and relate to the world. These archetypes live in our dreams, our fantasies, even the stories we love. The hero, the rebel, the caregiver, the sage. These are not just literary figures, they're patterns in the psyche. They rise in us, guide our behavior, shape our struggles. And we don't get to choose which ones affect us. They just do. But problems arise when we identify with only one. The hero who always must be strong. The caregiver who always puts others first. When we over-identify, we lose balance. Wholeness comes when we recognize all the archetypes at play within us and learn to listen to the ones we've silenced. These symbols appear in your impulses, your repeated emotional loops, even your silent longings. Ignore them, and you ignore yourself. They are the invisible forces behind your fears and fascinations. And if you don't bring them to awareness, they'll run your life without your permission. Which leads to a painful truth. When you don't seek individuation, when you resist becoming whole, you suffer. Let's explore that now. What happens to those who refuse the journey inward, who avoid the shadow, cling to the mask, and deny the deeper truths of their psyche? Jung warned that avoiding individuation doesn't spare you pain, it guarantees it. People think that fitting in brings peace, but it's a peace built on repression. Eventually, it cracks. Anxiety shows up, depression, a sense of meaninglessness even when life appears fine. The soul doesn't stay quiet forever. The body begins to speak through illness. The mind rebels through emotional crises, and people start repeating harmful patterns, sabotaging relationships, chasing empty goals, living without direction. Worse still is the quiet resentment, that bitterness without a source. It turns outward, blaming the world, family, the system, or inward, becoming self-loathing, shame, or numbness. This is the cost of avoiding the self. But there's a way out. It begins with courage, the courage to look within, to question the stories you've lived by, to stop pretending. That is the heart of individuation. So what does it actually mean to be yourself? To live without masks, without repression, without fear of judgment. It means accepting your full humanity. It means becoming honest with yourself first. It's not a sudden transformation. It's a lifelong unfolding, a shedding of false selves and a return to your essence. And few are willing to walk this path. Most prefer the comfort of personas, the illusion of safety. They fear what lies beneath the surface. But that fear leads to an empty life, one that may appear perfect on the outside but is hollow within. Jung showed us that real freedom is becoming who you were always meant to be. That includes your beauty and your flaws, your light and your shadow, your known and your mysterious. It's taking the wheel back from the world and writing your own story. But it takes guts to step outside your programming, to face your shame,